Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Morning Coffee. I'm just going to take a victory sip. Oh, that's hot. Slightly different format this time around in that while it is still the morning, for another 2 minutes at least, and, I have a cup of coffee in front of me, we're not recording in our usual place, which is the Big Punch Studios kitchen. We're actually recording in my old family home because I'm dog sitting. So I currently have company at the moment. You may be able to hear in the background the two family dogs, Timm and Finn, wrestling over what looks like a toy mouse. What have you got there? Okay, this is charming. We're actually having a little tug of war. So we have Finn, who is... I guess he's about 10 years old now, actually, which is kind of terrifying. He is a miniature wire-haired dachshund. So he's a sausage dog, but in terms of body dimensions, I guess he's more like one of those cocktail sausages you get. Like he's short of leg, long of body, but not exaggeratedly so. And then he's got like a great big mustachy kind of face. Is very, very cute. He's a lovely little dog, actually. And Timm is the puppy. He's just turned a year old, and he's a border terrier. So he's gone from being small enough to ride on Finn's back and be carried around the garden to actually being tall enough where Finn can walk under his legs. And let's face it, I mean, border terriers aren't massive to begin with. If you're having trouble visualizing dog breeds, the border terrier looks like the quintessential brown, scruffy mongrel. Although actually, they are it's pedigree. It's a particular breed, and he is daft as anything. Surprisingly strong. The big problem with Timm, as lovely a dog as he is that he gets fiendishly excited anytime you come round to visit. He calms down a little bit after about 30 seconds, but for those initial 30 seconds, he loses his mind and charges all over the place and really wants to leap up and kind of headbutt you. That's his particular skill. His incredibly powerful legs for such a small body and can kind of launch himself into the air. And he's got a rather thick skull as well, so if he actually connects, then you're going to be seeing scars. Also, his claws are razor sharp. I'm wearing shorts today, and my lower legs are just being scratched raw while he's been kind of paddling at me because he's so excited. But we have a rare moment of peace where the two of them are both have both collapsed with their favourite toys. I was hoping they might say something into the mic, but I don't want to jinx it now. I'm looking at them; they're actually quite peaceful. These rare moments of peace. So yeah, I'm house sitting, and I'm kind of just chilling now on the floor of the lounge of the house I kind of grew up in, drinking a cup of instant coffee. Which is, crying out loud, that's warm. Yeah, as I've mentioned in some previous episodes, my particular pedantic manner of making coffee involves kind of cooling the water. You don't serve it kind of boiling when you're dealing with proper ground coffee, and I know I am a bit of a coffee snob, but I will drink other varieties when the opportunity arises. But yeah, like I said, just the heat difference takes a little bit of getting used to. We have a coffee machine at work which is free and endless, and occasionally very appealing. I mean, like I said, as much as I am a purist and as much as I like my home brew, sometimes I can't deny the appeal of caffeine. Now, what was weird is that I used to get a black coffee out of the machine as they defined it. So press a button, there's a great big clanking and whirring, and it spews out this kind of vaguely translucent black liquid. And it wasn't great. But then I kind of, on a whim, pressed the espresso button instead. And you get a fairly decent, if slightly artificial tasting shot of coffee. Which makes me think that if the black coffee is nothing but the espresso and hot water, and that tastes pretty vile. And then if the espresso tastes fine, then surely it's not the coffee that's the issue, it's the water? But then it's just kind of plumbed into the main, so then you start kind of putting two and two together, and you're like, is it the piping? Is there just something kind of vile going on behind the scenes? I mean, sometimes you'd rather not think about it. We ended up watching because we're in the middle of a semi heat wave at the moment. It's not as bad as the one from a couple of weeks ago when I remember leaving work thinking, you know what, today was hot, but I think we've escaped the worst of it. It wasn't quite as bad as I was expecting. And then as I step outside, and I was wearing sandals because I don't care about the dress code. If it's 20 degrees in the office, I'm wearing sandals. And I step outside and my feet immediately start burning. And I'm like, this isn't good, This is warm. And I went to Aikido that evening because I'm training again now after my recent health problems. I'm kind of on an upward swing now, which is great. And the most beautiful thing about training, aside from the, obviously, joy of improving yourself and finding oneness through violence, is the air conditioning. Because it's a dance studio at the school where I used to work, oddly enough. So yeah, you've got a mirror down one side and like a horizontal bar running along the mirror for the I guess the ballet folk, I suppose. But we take it over and we put mats down, and it's got the most beautiful air conditioning you can imagine. And that's probably like the coolest 2 hours I'd had that entire week, despite the fact that I was being thrown around and slammed into the floor and whatnot. And obviously you get pretty hot and you get pretty sweaty, and you're wearing the kind of the gi top, which is like the kind of white, stereotypical kind of karate aikido, martial art top. But I wear that because I'm an aikido student. I wear that with the hakima, and the hakima are the kind of like super baggy black trousers. I mean, it looks like a skirt if I'm honest with you, but it's actually two very baggy trouser legs, and it is honestly one of the most comfortable things I get to wear because it is so airy. It's delightful. And one of the benefits of being a black belt is that you can be a little bit more flexible about where you stand in a training session. So because I am incredibly self-serving, I managed to maneuver myself into the peak position under the air conditioning to cool myself down. But the moment I stepped out of there, I mean, this was like 9 o'clock at night. I was thinking, it must be cool now. It must be cool now. Like I've slipped out of the dojo. I'm going home, car's on, I've got the air conditioning, it's fine. Step out onto the driveway at Big Punch Towers, and I'm like, oh my life, I want to die. The air, it's like walking through an airing cupboard, or, sticking your hand into a tumble dryer just after it's finished a cycle. Like, it was so warm. But yes, off the tail end of that, things got better. But now we're kind of in the aftermath, like a little wobble. So things have got warm again. And I got home yesterday, and it was pretty scorchio. And I got upstairs, and Nick, Ali, and Lucy are all kind of like passed out in various stages of melting on the sofas in the lounge. And Lucy's put on a video because her reasoning for putting on this particular video was that it was suitably calming and mind numbing, but in the most wonderful way. It was just, you could just switch it on and relax. And it was actually a pre-recorded stream by the Loading Ready Run group. And some of you may be familiar with Loading Ready Run, but they're a Canadian online sketch comedy group, or at least they were. Maybe they've been going maybe 12 years now, and I think Lucy introduced them to me. I think they were one of the first things we bonded over when we met, because we were both working as science technicians. It's not a great job, to be honest. You get kind of like bossed around a lot, and we'd get these kind of moments of solace where we could escape to the tea room and watch daft little videos on YouTube. And we were a big fan of a gaming website called the Escapist. I'm honestly not sure if the Escapist is still going. As a side note, they didn't really adapt very well to, I would say, the rise of kind of like smartphones and tablets. They were quite a fun little magazine. They did articles which were quite interesting. They hosted a lot of videos, which was really like the main appeal. Like every day of the week, they had a different schedule of kind of comedy or kind of quasi informative, educational kind of daft videos, all themed around kind of gaming and geek culture. And it was very enjoyable. Like it used to be the home of Zero Punctuation with Yahtzee Crochet. He used to do, which I'm sure you're aware of, but he used to do these incredibly acerbic and foul-mouthed reviews of games, but all kind of set to borderline, very like almost like MS Paint level animations of a little kind of stick figure on a yellow background. And he was very funny. At least I thought so at the time. Like I had developed like a real kind of love-hate relationship with Yahtzee, because for the longest time I thought he was hilarious. Like I absolutely loved his little videos, and I loved Zero Punctuation. I've even read his 2 novels, and I thought they were very good indeed. Mogworld, I'd recommend highly. Jam is very good. His second book, it's probably a bit more polished, but I preferred Mogworld. I thought it had like a stronger kind of emotional core. But he branched out into YouTube kind of more, and he started doing like a few Let's Plays and whatnot. He would kind of just hang out with his mate Gabriel, and they'd kind of just, talk about all manner of nonsense while playing games. And it was funny because this guy who I'd read his books and I admired, I thought they were very good. But, his entire online personality was built around being snarky, being kind of like rude. And that's great, like in those kind of 5-minute kind of segments. It was like it was a thing he, weaponized and employed very well. It was great. It was a USP. However, kind of like just some of his commentary when, talking with a friend and then kind of like, for an hour or so and kind of posting that stuff up, he just kind of tipped over into being generally, is it misanthropic, where you hate everyone? And I don't know, I found a lot of his opinions on certainly some of the controversies in the gaming world didn't kind of gel with me. It's only at a time when I think a more sensitive tone would have been nicer, I mean, to be fair, like, everyone's allowed an opinion. I guess that's the beauty of the internet. I don't know, I found myself agreeing less and less with the stuff he was saying. And, I don't know, I just kind of drifted away from him. Anyway, massive tangent, because one of the really good things that come out of The Escapist was Loading Ready Run. That's certainly my kind of gateway, thanks to Lucy. And Loading Ready Run were, I guess, kind of like my age, kind of a couple of years older than me, maybe. But they were doing this before YouTube existed. They were doing this just off their own back. And I think that was something I immediately admired. Like they, a group of maybe like, over years, there's been maybe like 10 or so of them at most. It's been a rotating cast. Like people have come and gone as their kind of lives have taken them in different directions, and new people have joined. And they used to do a sketch, like a 5-6 minute comedy sketch once a week. But then they had all manner of like surrounding things. They would do a sitcom called Commodore Hustle, where they played exaggerated versions of themselves and, going about their daily lives, but they're all awful people. That's the joke. It's an old joke. It's been done before, but it's something I find very entertaining. And they also got into when Magic the Gathering had its kind of renaissance. They were there at the start of that and ended up doing some promotional videos for Wizards of the Coast. But honestly, like I admired them immensely. Like I just had a time when I hadn't really started making comics. I was so enamored with these people. The fact that they were doing stuff off their own back. They were hosting stuff of their own accord on their own website before YouTube came along. They actually jumped across to YouTube fairly late, because they already were doing their stuff. They eventually went on to do Kickstarter. They eventually went on to have a Patreon. And nowadays, I mean, like their cast has changed quite significantly. There's only a few members of the core crew left. But, I think they're employing about 4 or so people full time doing what they do. And they have a number of people who they pay on a freelance basis. And nowadays, they're kind of like a pocket empire, really. Patreon has really been their saving grace. So, like, they've cultivated an incredibly loyal and involved community. And I guess as the years have gone on, I think my engagement with their content has kind of waned slightly. When Twitch came around and suddenly like the rise of streaming content, particularly playing video games and talking over it, with the rise of that, they got very much into that. It started off as like a sideline. They would, when they weren't filming little sketches and whatnot, they would stream and they would play a video game and record it. And they had amazing recording equipment and they cared very highly about their production levels. And so they started, they just started going out on Twitch. And with the nature of Twitch, people began throwing money at them. It's a kind of phenomenon I've not really wrapped my head around yet, but they started making a lot of money. So much so that they were able to employ more people, so much so that they were able to generate more content, and it just went on and on and on. And so now I'd say they're primarily streamers. They generate hundreds of hours of content a week because they have a large team, they have a physical premise. So yeah, I admire them greatly, even if I think I kind of liked them more when they had that kind of indie sensibility and were kind of making comic strips. Like I consumed their material like kind of like voraciously. Like I watched everything. I particularly loved the behind the scenes stuff. The behind the scenes stuff was so inspirational. Like the idea that, a lot of them had day jobs, but every week they'd be writing stuff in the evenings. Every Saturday they'd record a sketch. Every Sunday they'd edit it, and then every Monday they'd publish. And they just did this, over and over again. And for the longest time I was like, oh, that's all I want. I mean, substitute comedy videos for indie comics, and the market, the model was essentially the same, and it just proved it could be done without the backing of a major publisher. I admired them so much, and I guess the irony now is that with their streaming and with playing video games, they make more money now than they ever did just generating content. So I think the balance is kind of shifted, where now I'd say like maybe 80% of what they do is streaming, and it's very entertaining. They're charming people, but the actual generating unique stuff has kind of gone to the wayside, fallen by the wayside, I guess. It's that age-old battle between creating something or creation and content generation. I mean, it's like, yeah, if you're streaming something for 8 hours, you are undeniably generating content, but you're not creating something unique that future people may talk about. And I don't know, maybe I'm a little bit of a snob about this. I don't know. I mean, I still support them on Patreon. I still enjoy their content, but I think I enjoy it more now because I've followed these people for like a decade or so, because they've been a big part of my life. They've been a big part of mine and Lucy's life together. There's something we used to just, like I say, something we talked about. It was, in that time when we were working together and we needed a break from our jobs, it was just something we'd bond over in the tea room. And so, yeah, like I love these people. In a weird way, they're kind of like friends I've never met. I've had some interaction with them over the years. I remember asking Kathleen, who was one of the kind of founding members for careers advice a few years ago, and she was kind enough. She actually gave it to me. Like she was very, very kind of her. She, I said, I don't mean to pry, but I see you mentioning some videos what you do for a job. You seem to be writing for a job. How does that? Would you mind me asking what your nature of your work is? And she took the time to reply and said, yeah, this is what I do. I guess the irony being is that now I am actually doing that kind of thing. I do write and edit as a job. I've also had some interaction with Paul, who's been another kind of founding member. He backed one of my Kickstarters, which was very, very kind of him. I think he backed the Book of Life Kickstarter. One of the coolest things that Loading Ready Run do is they run a charity. They run a charity called Desert Bus for Hope. Or rather, it's a charity event with the funds going to Child's Play, which is the charitable organisation run by the team at Penny Arcade, with whom they're friends, where they play Desert Bus, which was kind of like a joke game that was never really released. But long and short of it is, it was on the Sega Genesis, and it's meant to be the most boring game ever made. The point is that you drive a bus from Tucson. Oh man, I'm going to get this wrong. I think it's Tucson to Las Vegas in real time. And it takes, 15 hours? And all your only controls... Oh, hello, Tim. Hello. Oh, hello. Yes, I'm getting licked by a dog. Hello. Get off. Okay, down. Hello, boys. Oh, things here. Okay, right. Okay. Tim, no. Okay. Down, boy. Good boy. Down. Hey, I'm recording a podcast. Yeah, you're going to say something? You're just going to headbutt the table. Okay, this is so staying in. Hello, Finn. Yes, you're lovely, aren't you? Yeah, so... Hello, boys. You're back again. This is great audio. This is wonderful. You're going to say something? You're going to say something? Yes, hello. Oh, yes, hello. Oh, good. I shouldn't have sat on the floor, should I? This was a mistake. Okay, down, boys. Down. Yes. Oh, I love you too. Yes, hello. You're on the podcast now, aren't you? Yes. Oh, there. Oh, down. This isn't getting edited at all. Okay, there we go. Yes. Chill. Good boys. I'm telling a story. Yeah, right in the face. Get off. Down. Okay, not charming anymore. Down. Okay. Yeah, so, yes, I know. Isn't it great when you have a fight on a podcast? There we go. Okay. Yes. So the idea is that you drive the desert bus in real time from Tucson to Las Vegas. Boys, calm down. And all the bus will do is list or drift gently to the left. So you can't even just set the controller straight and let it run. So that's what they do. And they play this game for charity. And they keep playing it as long as people pledge. So the more money that's pledged, the longer they play it. I think they played it for 7 days straight, 24 hours a day. They have various teams. They probably have a collective amount of volunteers, probably 50 odd, nearly, maybe more people. And it's kind of remarkable. And they've raised, I think, over $1 million, $1 million Canadian dollars for charity. It's quite incredible, really. And they have different teams. They break up the work, and it's amazing. And they do all manner of activities while the gameplay is going on. So there's always someone in the bottom left playing. They're streaming the whole thing. They have a big team. They have a massive technical team behind the scenes. And then they do activities and kind of pledges and all this kind of telethon kind of stuff. Oh, hello, Finn. Yes. Well, you're the smart one. You're not meant to be causing trouble now, are you? Yes. Yes, I love you too. You're very cute. Anyway, but we, as Big Punch, have donated some items to their... I'm getting attacked now by Tim. Have donated some items to their charity auction in the past. Oh, good grief, there's a dog on my head. How did this even happen? Oh my god! Get off! Down my life! Oh, ow! Down! No. Ow! That really hurt. Ow! Okay, as a bit of scene setting, I'm actually sitting on the floor in the lounge with my back up against the sofa and the microphone on the coffee table in front of me. And Tim just jumped on the sofa and started beating me up with those aforementioned razor-sharp claws. Anyway, the long and short of it is that the other day I got home from work, and the three my three colleagues were watching a pre-recorded stream from Loading Ready Run, in which two of the team members, Ian and Serge, were making things. So they weren't playing games, they were doing like a physical, kind of like a craft show, really. I believe Ian was trying to manufacture a t-shirt cannon, like you do. And Serge, who is a barista, was making coffee. He was doing like a little coffee tutorial, which was quite delightful. He was explaining the ins and outs of making proper coffee, the temperatures, kind of like how to treat it, store it, grind it. It was very interesting, actually, and it was nice to know that in many ways I was kind of on the right track. Like I cool the water before pouring it. I like to treat it a certain way, but I feel I could up my game. The thing is, like, Serge, I think by his own admission, was going into an incredible level of detail and artistry in brewing the coffee. I think more so than you would do on a daily basis. I don't think anyone would have time in their life to do this every morning, as much as I would like to. And I think that's the proper thing about being like a connoisseur of anything. Like, I think it's very important to, if you care about something, then you shouldn't be ashamed of it. You should be very passionate and open about the care you take in something, or the appreciation you have for something which may not otherwise be appreciated. But I think the fine line between being snobbish is, you appreciate, sometimes you get what you're given. Sometimes you make do with what you have. And I think it's why I'm more than happy to, drink instant coffee when it's required. I'm more than happy to, hello, go to Starbucks, or hello. All the dogs are back. No, this is, well, what are we going to do? We're stuck now, aren't we? Get off, you maniac. Get off. You're behaving so well. Both of you, honestly. You're so desperate to be famous. Anyway. We, long and short of it is, I feel I can up my coffee game with thanks to Serge for some tutorial. And I think the next step for me will be buying a grinder. I'd like, because I buy pre-ground, and I'd like to jump to keeping a store of whole beans and grinding them as required. So maybe that's something I'll look into. Crying out loud, that's a long roundabout way to get to saying you want to grind coffee beans. Lucy and I were actually lucky enough to visit the Loading Ready Run studios when we were in Canada, because they're based out of Victoria on Vancouver Island, and we got to fulfill a very long-term little dream or goal of ours to stop by their old studio and say hello. And of course, summer in Canada is always hot, so something in common with today. And I remember going up into their old studio, which was smaller than the current one. It was absolutely sweltering, and we were all kind of like sweating buckets, but they were kind enough to kind of pause and, take a photo with us and hang out for a bit. And Serge, who at the time we didn't know very well because he hadn't appeared in a massive amount of videos, was kind enough to accompany us as we headed off. I think he had to get to work, and he kind of cycled a block or so with us, just chatting, and I think it was him who insisted we take the photo. So Serge was incredibly kind of polite and charming. He's just a genuinely lovely guy, and I think we follow each other on Twitter, so I might have to shout out and salute the coffee master. We talking of the dogs, I was thinking the other day, I had a dream the other day about Dill, who was our former family dog, who sadly we lost a couple of years ago. Actually, I think it was the week before we all moved into Big Punch Towers. Actually, and Dill was a good age. Like he'd lived a long life, and he'd had a few problems along the way. I think some medicine he'd had once had messed with his liver a little bit. So, and he was blind. But yeah, it was really odd actually. I had a dream about him, which was really quite surprising actually, because he was running around and it was one of those really, maybe it's the heat messing with my head, but you get like those really in-depth dreams sometimes where the details, the logic is kind of fuzzy. but the emotional impact is very high. Like, I've had a lot of dreams in the past week or so where I've had a real sense of place, like a real sense of location in a weird way. I always get the sense of like a building or complex structures, but I can never tell you where it was or if even it was a real place. And yeah, and often these dreams are coupled with complex events or interacting scenes like a movie. Like, it, all you get is a sense of complexity without any real meaning. But I remember Dill was there and he was running around and he featured in a lot of different scenes and moments. And yeah, oddly enough, he was blind in my dream as well, which I thought was surprising that my subconscious would have dug that up. I would have thought I might have remembered him as he in his kind of prime, really. But yeah, it was fiendishly sad. Like, I'm a sucker for dogs or animals, really. Even when they're slapping me in the head or raking skin off my scalp, as this one was a second ago. But humanity, we have our ups and downs, but it's like, dogs they're entirely our, if we mess up a dog, that's entirely on us. All they want is love, and yeah, they break your heart, little sogs. But I was reminded of a weird little event that happened not long after we got Dill. He can't have been much older than Timm is now, maybe 1 or 2 years. But despite both being Border Terriers, should have specified that you couldn't have ended up with 2 more different dogs. It's astonishing, really. Dill was a nervous dog. He was an anxious dog. Kind of new situations would kind of like unsettle him. But he was astonishingly strong-willed and intelligent, like incredibly intelligent. And he knew what he wanted. Like, for many things he was a pushover. Like, he would do whatever. He was, quite obedient. But on occasion, he'd get something into his head where he absolutely wanted something. Like, we could quite happily let Dill off the lead. We never let Finn off the lead. Like, as much as I love Finn, he's too flighty. Like, he's too he's just impulsive, where he just probably wouldn't come back to you. But Dill, yeah, we could let him go and he'd just be off, truffling, as we said, just kind of like checking around, sniffing things. And then he'd always just look over and see how you're doing and would come back. And if you did ever have him on the lead and you'd walk him around the village, he knew where he wanted to go. Like, he had a route. And if you ever dared deviate from that route, he would just plant his feet in the ground. He wasn't a big dog. He can't be more than a foot high, but he was muscular and he would just he was like a rock. Like, if he didn't want to be moved, he couldn't be moved. Even when he was blind. He could navigate his way around the village easily. But I remember in I think it would have been 2003, 2004, just when I was kind of like wrapping up my final year at secondary school. I had got a weekend job on a chicken farm just around the corner. And I'd get up at 6 and I would cycle down to the farm and in my overalls and my wellies, and I would spend 6 hours, I think, on a morning, going around all the various chicken coops, letting the chickens out for the day so they could roam, collecting all the eggs, cleaning the hay, watering and feeding them. Like, it was fairly hard work, actually. It certainly made you comfortable with a bit of dirt, shall we say, and certain smells. Also, those chickens were vicious if they wanted to be, And yeah, and then I'd gather up like several hundred eggs and take them down to the farm shop on a quad bike. So yeah, one of the perks was getting to ride a quad bike. But and they kept ostriches at this farm as well. So getting chased by the ostriches like some kind of horrific feathered velociraptor was something. But I remember one morning where it was raining, and when I was out on the farm, I just got wet. That was it. I mean, you couldn't be fussy, and there was almost no point in trying to protect against it because there'd be so much, just you had to get dirty, you had to get involved, and just getting muddy and wet was part of it. And I remember, I think my dad had come to pick me up because of the weather. Like, for some reason, I'd not cycled that morning, probably because it was raining so heavily. And I remember we just pulled back up onto the drive in the house where I'm currently sitting, and it was chucking it down, and the weather was really miserable. And just as we're kind of getting out of the car, this little brown shape comes trotting around the corner from the road, quite purposefully, like utterly determined, knew exactly what he was doing. And he just kind of, yes, down boy. Yes, I love you. Yes, no, I'm talking. Yes, hello. Yes, I love you. You're a very wonderful dog. Wonderful dog. Down. I'm telling a story. Okay? Good boy. No. You're not as well behaved as him, were you? Are you? No. Just down. Good boy. So, this little bedraggled brown shape, utterly drenched, comes trotting around the corner from the road, walks past us, ignores us entirely, and goes and sits at the front door, and then just looks at us. And we're like, Dill? Like, what? Like, what the hell? And he just waits for us to open the door, comes inside. And so Dad and me are a bit baffled, like saying, what's going on? Like, where's Mom? Like, what's going on? And Mom was out, so she must have been walking the dog. So then we're thinking horror stories. We're thinking, oh, good grief, maybe Mom's hurt herself. Maybe she's in danger. Like, why would Dill, what's he doing off the lead? How's he done this? So we go hunting. So, Dad's driving around the village trying to find Mom, and I go out on foot because I'm wet anyway. So, and we go up into the wood, which was, just at the top of a hill by the village. And I'm kind of going around and shouting Mom's name or Mom. And I find her, and she's really upset, and the rain's coming down, and she's like, "I've lost Dill, I can't find him." And she was thinking he'd gone down a badger set or something, and it's horrific. You know how if you've ever had a pet, you know how kind of attached you get to them, and the fear of losing them is kind of terrifying. And then so we had to say no, it's fine, he's at home, and hello, yes, I'm talking. Yeah, hello. Sorry, they're back. And I remember, Mom was very upset. So we got her home and, kind of, yes, that's a microphone. Leave it alone. And we calmed her down and everything. And we basically, as near as we've been able to work it out, Mom had been walking Dill through the woods and had taken him off the lead, as she would do on the woods when we weren't by a road. And I think he basically just said, I'm fed up of being wet. This is horrible. And he just walked home. It was astonishing. He just left Mom and walked, I don't know, maybe just under a mile. But we'll never know what route he took. We'll never know how long he was kind of travelling, whether he took a meandering route or whether he just took the most direct route. But the fact that Dad and I had just got back was a complete coincidence. He just kind of said, well, sod this, and headed off and quite calmly trotted all the way home and sat by the doorstep and waited to be let in. So, yeah, he knew what he wanted. And, yeah, very sad he's gone. But right now I have two adorable little terrors. Finn, who went from being Dill's little brother to being kind of, well, I want to say the wise, older, the voice of reason here, but I'm not entirely sure. But Timm absolutely adores him, and right now he's trying to show him a cuddly mouse, which he's been quietly tearing apart. So maybe to stop him eating his own body mass in cotton wool, I better put a pin in it. But yeah, thank you for listening to yet another increasingly rambling and disconnected episode of Morning Coffee. On the horizon, the Big Punch team are off to the Cardiff International Comic Expo tomorrow. First time we've ever done a Cardiff show. Should be fun. I'm hearing some good things about this. I think it's been run and organised by some good people. So I'm looking forward to seeing what it's like. And it's not too far a drive from us, so it'd be nice to return to our own begs. And and then on Sunday, I think we're going to record another session, probably complete the first storyline of our brand new podcast, which will be debuting on Wednesday. And I'm super excited about this one. But basically, we have devised or are in the process of devising an RPG for Cuckoos, the main series in Extraversal. So the basic gimmick is you, when playing the game, take on the role of a crew member aboard an extraversal ship. The extraverse being the space between universes, the space between stories, like these kind of vast, echoing, dark corridors between universes and worlds. And you take flight in this shift ship, and you go out in search of trade or adventure, or maybe even a home. And Lucy, being the kind of mastermind and being, probably the person with the most role-playing experience, tabletop role-playing, has devised a very rules-light system. And we just kind of dove in, and we're making mistakes as we go, we're learning from it, and if something works, we're writing it down. And the dream is that this will be a kind of interactive experience where, if you're interested in this, we're going to be posting our show notes on the Patreon. You can get involved, you can help us. You can play along at home, you can suggest rules, we'll amend and adapt things as they come. And we did our first playthrough, and it went really well. We're kind of like halfway through a scenario I kind of half planned and half making up as we go along. But Nick, Ali and Lucy are playing it, and they're doing absolutely spectacularly. It's my first attempt at DMing, and I've got to say, I'm enjoying it immensely. And we've already got a second storyline planned, and I think everyone's keen to carry on. So I'm hoping this will become a regular thing. So starting Wednesday, and then weekly from then on, we hope you'll join us for Cuckoo's First Flight, our brand new show, and we can see the ongoing adventures of Capella, Ritua, and Lynette, the crew of the future legend. And I'm really quite excited about it. So anyway, hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy your coffee, and I'll see you next time.